19 books is a lot to read in 1 month. And when I only have 4 top read out of 19, it's not a good month. It almost feels like a reading slump is on its way. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over my July wrap up. Yes, you heard correctly. I read 19 books for the month of July, and that's got to be one of the biggest months for me as a reader. I don't know if I've read 19 books in a month before, but I did it somehow. I will say shout out to my local library because I did end up getting a lot of my holds within the month of July. Somehow it was like every 2 days I'm getting a hold released, whether it's an ebook or an audiobook. And I did have 2 books that did get transferred for me to pick up. So I only own like 5 physical copies out of the 19 books that I read. The rest were through my local library, whether it be a physical copy, Hoopla, or Libby, audiobook and ebook. And I will try to share what the format was as we get through these. I'm going to share my worst book so far of 2026 and of the month. I'm going to be sharing my top 4 books, which were 4.5 to 5-star books for me, and good books. The rest were just not there. And when I say not there, it's like under a 3-star rating. So if you're new to my channel, please like and subscribe. I cover all things books, thrifting books, local library book hauls, the physical media, DVDs, TV shows, and how it all circles back to books. So let's get into this. Now, I'm going to start with my worst book, and please bear with me, okay? I know this is not a popular stance, but my worst book was The Caretaker by Marcus Cliewer. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. If you're not familiar, this is a really popular horror book. However, the marketing just missed it for me. And I did leave like a 2-page review because I felt like there was a lot to talk about, especially with the ethics of the writing, especially with the very severe mental health disorders that are talked about, and the author even mentions in the prologue. And I just felt like it wasn't done well. The book did not hit for me. I gave it a 1 star, and I usually don't give out 1 stars. So if that says anything, it was just not a good book for me. I will get into that in just a minute, but I did just want to give a quick summary for you guys. Now, the absolute creme de la creme for me was Model Home by River Solomon, Scarred by Clark Fredericks, which was a memoir, The Lamb by Lucy Rose, and Mad Mabel by Sally Hepworth, which was my in-person book club's pick for July. And those were all great books, which, our book club pick, everyone enjoyed Mad Mabel as well. So now I only have 3 books that were just good, and that list includes Best Offer Wins, Convenience Store Woman, and Needful Things. So I'm just going to go down the list here really quickly and give you guys the titles and the authors, and then I'll just kind of give a little bit of each because this is going to be such a long video and I don't want to drag it out. You can look me up on Goodreads and Fable, as well as Instagram and TikTok, for more in-depth reasoning to why I rate the books the way that I do at Sophia Reads Everything across all social medias. Now, for The Caretaker, I did have it on my Kindle. So a lot of these were either downloads or, again, through my library. I did not go through and try to find any of these books to thrift and purchase because it just wasn't a great month for me. So let's talk about the worst book. So The Caretaker by Marcus Cliewer is basically about this woman, and she is almost in like this weird dreamscape of her own mental health challenges. And the author does state that mental health disorders like OCD and depression, suicidal ideation are all aspects to this story, but I just felt like it wasn't done well in the book. And I also had a huge problem as a psychology major graduate, and I used to work in the field. I feel like The prologue did not do what it needed to prepare people for what to expect, and also enough to support anyone who may be in trouble. The author literally just said, life sucks, I'm depressed, other people are too, call this number if you feel like offing yourself. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is so strange, such a weird prologue. And it also didn't really explain his decisions, which I really appreciate, either a prologue and or an epilogue that at least covers what the author's goal was when you decide to write in a subgenre that can be vague and confusing and kind of dreamy. This was just a mess for me. And again, if you want to read the full summary where I break everything apart, go to Goodreads or Fable or my Instagram, because I definitely went in on this book. The FMC in this book just can't make one right decision, and yet she's a grown independent woman who was able to live an independent lifestyle up to a certain point. And that really bothered me. The ending was just blown wide open, and a lot of people were saying give this book a chance because book 2 is supposed to kind of make everything come together. But I judge books solely off of the individual book. If I was just looking at this book, it's a 1 star. I shouldn't have to read book 2 or 3 or whatever to try to justify how bad the first book is. As a whole, The Caretaker was a mess. It was very haphazardly paced. The main character was also given this personality that felt very like hater-esque, like just drank the Kool-Aid just to try to make her seem like she is depressed, or just to make her negative. And it just felt like it wasn't a genuine character for me, where the author really took the time to develop her and to understand the mental health disorders. And then there were a lot of repetitive things in the writing that just didn't seem necessary. Like the only way to depict OCD was somehow for this phrase to keep popping up, and it just was weird. And I really gave this book a chance. I did end up trying the audio as well through my local library, and it was just garbage. So I will not be reading book 2. Sorry, not sorry. It's not for me. Some people really like the trippy, weird writing that doesn't have any type of outline, which I don't understand, but that's for them. It's not for me. So just letting you know now, I did pay money to originally download the ebook because I saw so many social media reviews promoting this book, and I feel like I got sucker punched again. So I'm about to just say F you to the social media book content creators, because it seems like these people either aren't reading the material or aren't doing the research, or are just grabbing a book because someone else bought it and is saying, looky, this is a must read, without even starting the book first. And that just drives me crazy. So sorry for the rant. That was the worst book of the year, the worst book of July, the worst book I've probably read in a long time, next to A Little Life. So moving on, let's do a flip here and talk about the best books. The best books of July. Let's start off with Model Home by River Solomon. This was the first River Solomon book that I had read. River Solomon is a very intellectual person. They have a very prestigious educational background, and they also have a magical way of writing very simple yet telling prose. And I feel like this author is going places. Every review that I've seen by credible sources says that this person is a standout in American fiction. This person has such a true way to depict all of these horrifying things that have happened in our history and continue to happen today. And with Model Home, I feel like they did this again. Now, Model Home follows this home with a lot of trauma within. It also follows an African-American family that's living in an upper white privileged neighborhood, and it follows one of the children who's now older and a mother, and they cover family dynamics, trauma, abuse, racism, and I just felt like the writing was powerful. I'm talking like Stephen King level writing that I have not really seen anywhere else. So 5 stars. I definitely recommend. Check your trigger warnings, but it is so worth it. I did end up checking out Sorrowland from my local library because I'm just a River Solomon stan now. So next we have Scarred by Clark Fredericks. This was a 5-star memoir. I do recommend the audiobook, and I will say there are a lot of triggers, but if you can make it past, just make it past chapter 2 and you'll be fine. There's a lot of hard realities in this book. This book follows a young man's story of his time as a child and young man, and his abuse from this person in the community, and how he moves on with his life through, substance abuse, a fallout with his family, coming to terms with what happened to him, finally sharing his story of revenge and redemption and recovery. And it was so powerful. Again, it's a book that's going to sit with me forever. 5 stars, definitely recommend, because this is a man's story of a topic that everyone deals with, but especially women with SA, especially as younger people, and how these figures in your community aren't actually safe. Just blew me away. Next we have The Lamb, which I do have a copy. I did buy this from a independently owned bookshop in Franklin when I went to a book author event, and I wanted to support the store, and I just love this book. The Lamb by Lucy Rose for me is a 5-star read. It was atmospheric, perfect folk horror that also depicts mother-daughter tumultuous relationships, coming of age, and right and wrong, morality, cannibalism, societal norms. It is diverse, inclusive, dark, but also I felt like the ending was a perfect way to tie up this story. And if you've read these books and you feel otherwise, I'd love to talk. So share your comments with me. I just want to know what other people think and why they think that way, because obviously what I think about these books is just my own opinion. And if you want to make your own opinion, obviously go read the book. But for me, I love The Lamb. I also read other books similar, like Victorian Psycho, which is going to be adapted to film, which I enjoyed, but not as much as The Lamb. So that's why I bought the book, because it was that good. Next final top read is, foreshadowing. Mad Mabel by Sally Hepworth. Again, this was the book club pick. Everyone loved it. Elderly woman, has a history, went to prison, and is finally sharing her side of the story. And it's powerful, captivating. Again, another story of how certain demographics, elderly women and young girls are in this odd category in society where they're either overlooked or they're not believed. And it just really was emotional and powerful at the same time. If you love a good cranky elderly woman who doesn't take shit from anybody, read that book. I love Mad Mabel. Me and her would be besties. And next we have just the Goodreads. So Best Offer Wins was another book that I got from my local library. I did do the audio, and it was very interesting. I saw people saying that this book was crazy. It basically follows the process of home buying with this couple. This woman and this man, her husband, have been trying to get pregnant. It's not been successful. They also want to get out of this tiny apartment, kind of elevate their lives to the next level by buying a house. They find a house that they want, and the woman kind of takes it too far. She starts snooping. She tries to make friends with the owners to see if there's any way that she can put her offer in before the market goes crazy, because it's just impossible to buy houses at this time, which is very relevant because during COVID, it was kind of the same way. People were buying houses without even doing a walkthrough because it was impossible to put an offer in and get an offer accepted in time because so many people were trying to grab at houses. So the ending was crazy. The epilogue threw me off a little bit, but it was good. It was a good read. The pace was well kept. The characters were interesting. They were believable. I felt like I was like a fly on the wall. The drama was there. So Best Offer Wins, I would recommend if you love a good thriller, if you enjoy Frida McFadden, Lisa Jewell, Riley Sager, you'll probably like that book. Next we have Convenience Store Woman, and that's by Sayaka Murata. And I liked this book, but it was like a 4-hour audiobook. Like, the book itself is very short, very simple. So for that reason, I didn't give it a 5-star. It seems more like a novella about this woman who is basically isolated in society. She doesn't fit in well. She also has these weird homicidal ideations, tendencies, and you follow her process of working in this convenience store and finding her place in the world. I really enjoyed it. It was quick, simple, to the point. I wish there was more, and so that's why I didn't give it a 5-star, but it was good. And then last but not least, Needful Things. I do have the giant cover down here. I found a hardback on eBay, fabulous cover, but I'm not going to get it out right now because there was a spider over there, and I don't want to mess with the spider. I'm hoping my cats will take care of it, but Needful Things is one of the longest books I've read, next to East of Eden and like War and Peace and A Little Life, and it is very good. The pacing is much better than some other older books by Stephen King. I did enjoy the story. There's a lot of action. The ending is well done, and it was very good. Now, I will say it wasn't a 5-star read just because it was so long, and I felt like there were so many characters, which I'm neurodivergent. So with the ADHD, PTSD, sometimes it's hard for me to stay connected to the 30 characters that Stephen King has, which is why I also journal. But I will say this, Needful Things is one of my top Stephen King books after reading it, and I would recommend it to everyone. And I don't believe that you have to read any of his other works to follow the story. A lot of people will say read in a certain order for Stephen King, but you really don't have to. Like, I feel like that's being a little bit extra. So those were good books for me. And now I'm just going to share the rest of the books that I read, starting with I Know a Place by Nat Cassidy, which is a collective of short horror stories. And I will say I was a little let down. It wasn't bad. I gave it 3 stars. The issue with this is there were some really good short stories and some short stories that were just flops, in my opinion. And they were, they're very simple, very short, so you can kind of hop in and out as you need to. But I also felt like the audio that was recorded for it, because it was a hold that came available to me, and I wanted to listen to it before I bought it, because I really loved When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy, but I wasn't sure which one I wanted to buy. So I thought, let me vet this first, and I will be buying When the Wolf Comes Home, because this one wasn't bad, but it just didn't hit for me. I wrote down my favorite short stories out of the entire book because I was shocked. There are so many, so prepare yourself to just go along for the ride and try to keep track, because you will kind of get confused because it just hops in and out. So for me, my favorite short stories were Meet Cute, which was the Ted Bundy story, and I loved that. Generation, Nice, and Jubilee Juncture. So some of the stories that really caught me off guard were, the Meet Cute story, which you end up finding out at the end that this person on this date is actually Ted Bundy, and you're getting insight into his world. Really love that. Very clever, different approach. And then Nice follows this young boy, and elf shows up, a disgruntled, cursing elf tells this kid, hey, I need you to act out, act a fool, be bad, because we're getting overworked here. Santa Claus, aka the man, won't give us a break. And I just need you guys to act bad for a little bit. We can't keep up with the demand of all these toys. And the kid goes off, and the elf ends up, so definitely fun, interesting. It would be a good Christmas read if you like horror, crazy, silly stories, almost like Goosebumps for adults. So, 3 stars. And, you can formulate your own opinion. I will say that the book starts off with a few stories that just didn't hit for me, which made it harder for me to stay interested. But if you can get past the first 2 stories, I think you'll enjoy the rest. There's another one about a facility that helps with pregnancies and potentially abortions. Stay with me. But due to medical reasoning, because of these weird alien deformity type of circumstances that are happening at a ridiculous rate. And that story freaking blew my mind. So again, there were some really heavy hitters and then some really big flops. So it just ended up being a 3 for me. Now, the rest of the books here that I read include Murder by Cheesecake. Oh, I'm sorry, not Murder by Cheesecake. I have Cross My Heart, I Hope You Die by Mallory Arnold. I gave it 3 stars. It was an ARC from NetGalley. Very good, very simple. Kind of like a John Tucker Must Die, cabin in the woods thriller with a bunch of women who find out they're all dating the same guy. I'm not going to give away too much. I don't want to spoil the book, but it's crazy, cuckoo bananas. If you like Frida McFadden, if you like twisty, crazy books that have a surprise plot twist that you don't see coming, I recommend. Next, we have Victorian Psycho by Virginia Feito. I gave 2.75 stars just because the pacing was so difficult for me, and it's not a thick book, so I was shocked at how long it took me to read this book. It's interesting. I will be watching the movie because it looks fabulous, but compared to The Lamb's pacing's better. Everything I felt, was better. The immersion, the characters, how I felt connected. So Victorian Psycho, it's good if you like cannibalistic horror, crazy historical horror, but it's not the best. Next we have Ghost Story by Peter Straub, which is an OG must-read horror book that I see everywhere on the list of if you're going to start the horror genre, read this book. This was actually a little bit of a twist on like a classic ghost story, because these men kind of come together and they end up telling stories, and some of them are telling the truth, some of them aren't, but they basically end up like haunted by this one story that happened, by like this unfortunate accident. So it was really interesting. I will say, like, it does kind of hop around a little bit, which threw me off, but I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't bad, and I felt like I enjoyed it enough and that I might come back to it again when I have more time to really absorb it and see how I feel later. And then we have Hot Chocolate on Thursday, which was by Michiko Aoyama. I gave 3.5 stars. I did a quick YouTube short if you're interested to see what I thought. But basically, it's a bunch of short stories. It's a collective in a cozy cafe about love, womanhood, coming of age, all these little things. And I really liked it. Very simple, short, quick read. You could recommend to anybody or give as a gift. Then we have Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. I'm going to a Riley Sager book event tomorrow where I'm going to be getting a signed copy of his latest book release, The Unknown, which is a haunted, horrific thriller about a, ghost kind of story. So I'm interested to hear more about that. I will do a vlog after the fact, but I've been working through all of his books. I only have one left now to finish, and Lock Every Door was good. It is a, I gave it 3.25 stars. And this is basically like a modernized version of Rosemary's Baby. So you have this big elite apartment building, but there's a lot more behind the scenes, a lot of darkness, evil. And this woman is in between jobs. She needs to make money. She ends up being an apartment sitter, and things just go crazy from there. And last but not least, we have The God of the Woods, which I will get to in a minute. Sorry, I forgot one more. The Subtle Art of Folding Space is by John Chu, who was a really big award winner, and I just happened to see the book. It is considered sci-fi, but it's a little bit genre bending because it does follow, again, a mom and her daughters while the mom is sick. So it's almost like a mother-daughter relationship in the midst of this crazy time warping environment. It was good. It wasn't great, but I'm not a sci-fi person unless it's really intense aliens kind of thing. So it wasn't bad. It was good. I gave it 3 stars. But I think if you do enjoy more sci-fi as far as like the intellectual, time hole, like the wormholes, the concept of bending time and other worlds, I think you would like it. But for me, it was a little bit difficult to keep up with concepts. So now, last but not least, we have The God of the Woods, and this is being adapted by Netflix. I think they're about to finish up working on it in New York, and I just wanted to understand what the hype was about, but it kind of fell flat for me. I did talk about this a little bit in my other videos, but I did kind of read it on the line between the months, so it was okay. I felt let down just because, again, a lot of people are saying, oh, it's fabulous, it's this, it's that. Yes, it's atmospheric. Yes, it's very summer camp, Summerween vibes. Yes, it's interesting. However, the title sucks. The cover art is trash. And I feel like the marketing of the book, even online through the publishers, was not great. There is no like greater thing that's causing this horror. It really is just stupid human beings being ridiculous. You know, there's some substance abuse going on. There's family drama going on. These two kids from the same elite family go missing over these different periods of time at summer camp. I don't know. There's young love and drama going on as well in the mix. And it just felt choppy. And you kind of get introduced to people at weird times in the book. And the pacing just wasn't consistent, which really makes it difficult for me to enjoy a book. So, yeah, that is the quick rundown for you guys. I did wanted to, well, sorry, give me just a second. I did want to talk a little bit just because I feel like 19 books in a month is not my normal. I did also feel a lot of pressure from my library holds because a lot of the books that are popular, you have to wait months at a time sometimes on Libby if they're not available on Hoopla or in your local library. And then when they come available, you almost feel like you have to stop what you're doing and read it right then and there or listen to it right then and there because the next opportunity you're going to have is months away, which I don't think I'm going to be doing that anymore. I will say that it was a wild month for reading for me for July, but I also feel like I'm getting in that slumpy feeling, which I think is because of that. So for August, I wanted to share just a little bit. I'm going to be reading my book club pick for the book club month of August, which is The Daisy Chain Flower Shop, which is a very cozy, simple romance by Lori Gilmore within the world of Dream Harbor, which, if you're not familiar, she did the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, you know, the Gingerbread Bakery, the Strawberry Patch Pancake House books. She is that author. And so the Daisy Chain Flower Shop came out earlier this year, I believe in March 2026. So a lot of the girlies really enjoyed the Christmas Tree Farm one that we read last year. So we're reading this one. And then I'm also currently reading, oh guys, A Certain Hunger, which is over there. And it is a very pompous intellectual read. I was not expecting that. It is another cannibal horror, femgore, female rage story, loosely based on, you know, the cannibal who ends up, you know, cooking and eating her prey, essentially. So I was not expecting the amount of just vocabulary that I was unfamiliar with. I've been annotating that book, and I will share a whole separate vlog video summary of just that book because it's so crazy. I feel like my brain is doing so much work, and I have spent 4 days reading this very little book, which is not normal for me. So I want to get everything out of the book, but I'm also highlighting every freaking word I don't understand, trying to connect the dots. It is interesting. The story is crazy, and you get the perspective of this killer, and it's very good, but I think a lot of people will be deterred by the writing style and the vocabulary used. So just letting you guys know, if you're interested in A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers, it is a very like snooty book with tons of words that you will need to look up in your vocabulary, and you might get lost in the sauce. Now, for August, I plan to do a villains theme, which is going to just be a couple of books like The Assistant to the Villain, The Field Guide for the Formerly Villainous. I'm thinking more cozy. And then also I have Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh, and The Divorce by Frida McFadden. So kind of cozy or thrillers, just fun books to kind of cleanse the palate because my brain was so overworked in July. So August will be villains. I have already read A House at the Bottom of the Lake by Josh Mallerman, and Tradwife, which is another NetGalley arc, not by Saratoga Schaefer. That's really good, that I will be sharing my thoughts on here soon. So make sure you subscribe and come back for August wrap up too. Because I think August will be a little bit more fun. A couple of books that I wrote down as well for other options include The Second Death of Locke, which is also, it's not really a villain story, but it's kind of medieval and the roles are reversed. This woman has to protect in the role of like a knight. And I love anything medieval. The cover was beautiful. Everyone says it's really good. And the next book is coming out soon. So I really want to read that. It's been on my TBR. I have The Taming of the Shrew and Once There Were Wolves. So a little bit of everything in the mix, but really just only books I'm interested in. I'm not going to listen when Libby sends me notifications saying, oh, you have to read this within the next 3 days, or you're going to have to wait 4 months. I'm not doing that. So I hope you guys are having a good week. I am a stay-at-home mom, and I write, I cook, I clean, and I just dropped my kids off to school. I used to homeschool, so I'm getting adjusted because we are in a good area. The kids love their new school, but I'm in that kind of adapting back into, you know, the role of car driving, getting the kids ready. So let me know what you're doing this fall. I will be shuttling my kids back and forth to school, trying to plan for cozy fall activities, and we are going to Disney in October for Disney Halloween. It'll be our first family trip to Disney, so I will probably share that on here as well. And also the books that I plan to read in October that'll be cozy as well to fit the vibe. But that's what we've been up to. I did share some thrifting videos and a TJ Maxx Halloween video. I plan to go back again at the end of September just to see if they have more going on, because I do want a couple of the, the Johanna, I don't remember her last name, but the very like vintage carnival-esque Halloween home decor with the, it almost looks like over the garden wall decor, like the pumpkin faces and the black cats and the orange, black, white, purple color schemes. I really want to get either the salt and pepper shakers, because I collect salt and pepper shakers, or I want to look for some decor that I can put in my built-ins. So look for that as well. I plan to do some more thrifting for fall home decor and Kindle videos, because I'm on a book buying ban now. So I'm going to try to make my way through my physical TBR and my Kindle TBR. So that's going to be all I will be sharing, either public library books, Kindle books, or books from my shelves at home until the new year, because I don't want to overconsume and I try to budget accordingly. So if you're like me, that is a tip. Try to plan a couple months where maybe you don't go crazy, go shopping for books all the time, and you pick from your shelves of books you haven't read from your TBR. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this quick willy-nilly video of my July 2026 wrap up. If you guys have not yet, please like and subscribe and check back next week for another video.